Our first barista is Professor Burgess. Professor Burgess is a proud graduate of Broward College and has been with Broward College as an employee since 2000. She graduated from UF with a master's degree in pharmaceutical sciences and received a second master's degree in molecular biology and biotechnology from Johns Hopkins University. Professor Burgess, I am passing the cup to you, and you are on. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you very much for having me here. I just want to make sure real quick that everyone can hear me. I've had some sound issues this week, so okay, great. Thank you, Barbara. I like the thumbs up. Well, I am here today to present to you, if we could move the slide over one. Do I have the slide? Okay, there we go. I'm here to present to you something that we incorporated about 2 years ago in our non-majors biology course. This was introduced into our biology lab. Some colleagues and I wrote a lab manual we kind of readdressed an older course, and we wanted to revamp it and kind of modernize it with our students. And one of the aspects of this particular course was we wanted to make science and science lab in particular very relevant to a student's everyday life. We wanted them to really see how science was a part of everyday life and something that they could take with them and move on with. So we wanted to engage the students in their own world. We wanted to kind of reach students where they were, as opposed to expecting them to come up to a higher academic level. We wanted to find what part of a student's world would be the most accessible for content. And one of the ideas and a real premise behind what we did, it's called Everyday Biology, was to get students thinking about science outside of the classroom. Now, the three of us that rewrote this lab manual and kind of readdressed the course itself, we are all AQ graduates. One of the authors was actually in AQ while this was going on, and the other two of us had already gone through the AQ training. And without AQ, we probably would not have addressed this course the way that we did. But we are really happy with the results, and it's really been fantastic. So what we did, in addition to different ways of addressing our course individually, was a major component of it that I'm addressing with you today was we incorporated social media into the course as a course component. If we go to the next slide. So in our class here, we actually wrote this originally for a face-to-face course. One of the things we were asked to talk about was our modality, but because this is a social media concept, it just flipped right over into the remote teaching. You could use this in a fully online course. And of course, we use it in our face-to-face as well. So this has actually been very effective in any teaching modality that we've tried it in. Next slide. Our learners are a huge diversity. Many of us here tonight are from state colleges. So you're all very aware that we have a broad diversity of older adult learners, returning college students, straight out of high school students. This class specifically is for non-science majors. It is a general education course, so it's a gen ed requirement. Majority of the students coming into this class really don't have much interest in science. They're really taking the class because they have to, and we wanted to turn that around. We wanted them to see that science was actually a lot of fun, and it was something that they could be proud that they took, and something they can carry on with them. A few challenges that we ran into was that our adult learners were not necessarily tech savvy, and that our high school students were not really particularly interested in science. So in order to use social media in our general bio course, the first thing we had to do was create actual social media sites for the course. We created sites in Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Probably the most used is Twitter because it's the easiest and the quickest, but we incorporated Facebook for our older students. Many of our older students are very familiar with Facebook, so that was easy for them to use. Instagram is very popular with the much younger students, and Twitter kind of hit everybody in between. So we tried to select social media sites that we could track the posts as well as were effective for different age groups and different types of students. In the lab manual that we wrote, we incorporated actual hashtags themselves. In social media, hashtags are searchable. So we are able as faculty to go in and search certain hashtags during the week to see if students are creating those posts. Part of the requirement in the social media posting is to include at least one hashtag that is listed with that exercise. In order to get students started in this process, we started by providing them with a few extra points. In my particular class, the other faculty that teach the class can incorporate it any way that they would like to. But in my course, I give the students 1 extra credit point for a post each exercise or each week that we hold a lab. So they only are getting 1 extra credit point, and they don't get more than 1. They can make as many posts as they want to, but they're only going to get 1 extra credit point. And I've had students that have posted 3, 4, 5 times on different exercises just because they really thought it was a lot of fun, and they were very excited about the results that they got in lab. So one way to get the students started with this particular process is that we can give them a couple of points as well as respond to them. It's very important to respond to some of the student posts as often as you can. You don't have to put in large comments or anything like that. It's just really helpful. Next slide. So what have we learned from this? We learned a whole lot of things that we weren't really expecting. We learned that a lot of students aren't as tech savvy as we thought they were. So we had to kind of learn ourselves how to incorporate pictures and create posts and things like that. So we had to be able to teach students how to do that. We incorporated that on the first day and have created a few instruction videos or documents that help students learn how to use some of this different media. We provided guidelines on it. In the syllabus, we needed to make sure that students were aware that social media posts were going to be made so that students knew ahead of time they could possibly be in a picture or something that is posted on social media, to give the students the option to maybe take, if they don't want to be in those posts, to either make it known so they aren't actually recorded, or that they could take the course with someone who was not. So that was one issue we had to overcome. Another thing that we learned was that the students really liked it. They have a lot of fun with it. They even get a little competitive sometimes of who has the better post, and it becomes a part of the class. And by the 3rd or 4th lab period, I look around and they've got their phones out and they're taking pictures and they're interacting with each other and they're creating posts together. And it really has become a very collaborative type of thing in the class itself. Next slide. The other thing that we learned is that our students are amazing, and not that we didn't already know this, but the students themselves really started to want to be a part of the post. We create a lot of posts ourselves in order to promote the site and get the students engaged and following the actual social media accounts. So the students started to see themselves in those accounts. We always retweet. Twitter is the most popular. So we would always retweet any student post. We would make a comment on it. We would give it likes. And when the students started seeing that they were picking up followers, and they were just starting to see their own material being reposted, they got excited and they wanted to be a part of it. So it was always a lot of fun to have the students actually and say, hey, I'm going to create a post. Who wants to be in it? And they would all kind of come over and say, hey, check it out. We got these great results. So that's always a lot of fun. Move on to the next. The other really kind of big surprise is we all know that we sometimes learn more from mistakes than we do when things go right. And this is especially true in the science lab. But what we started to realize was that when students made mistakes in lab or something in a science experiment did not work, normally students would be very upset at that. They would be distraught, or it would be, oh, I'm not going to get this right on the lab report. And it started to turn around where students were actually paying more attention to their mistakes. They were making posts, kind of making fun of their own mistakes. And this made the ability to make a mistake a little more favorable. And students began asking questions. Why did this not work out? Because if they were asked about this in their social media posts, they wanted to answer it, or they wanted to talk about it. Excuse me. We found that they were more comfortable with those mistakes. They would kind of laugh them off and say, okay, well, how do I do this to get it right? So they were more willing to try again. Students were able to be more comfortable in the laboratory and comfortable coming to me as an instructor saying, hey, this didn't work. How do I get this to work? We even saw a few people, they would post like a before and after, did it wrong, did it right kind of thing. And students were becoming more comfortable in the laboratory with those mistakes and learning more from them. And that was a takeaway that we weren't expecting, but we found was really a big benefit. Next slide. The best part about the social media concept for us was that it was just engaging students in a way that they hadn't been engaged in other classes. It was something new, it was something different, and it was something that the students had control over. They could control what they posted, when they posted, how they posted it. Did they use Twitter, Instagram, Facebook? Did they include a picture? We've had students now, they're starting to post it on TikTok, and we don't even include TikTok in our array of media sites. They're making little videos and gift pictures, that sort of thing, that are just above and beyond what we were initially asking. Another really important aspect of this that we found really handy was the first year that we started this, there was a hurricane. I think we had a hurricane down here in South Florida and the school was closed. One of the things we were able to do was communicate with our students on social media and say, hey, are you guys okay? Everybody in BC 1005 lab, how are you doing? Check in. We even had students start posting, hey, you can find gas at this location or that location. So the students were engaging with each other, although it wasn't science related or course related, the students were relating to each other in a community type of sense. A couple of things to take away from it. This is my last slide, and I just want to give a couple of tips and some things that we found really helpful over the past 2 or 3 years that we've been doing this. Number one, responding to students' posts. This is really important to the students. Students give a lot of weight, and really it is very important to them that their social media posts are liked. That's a big deal for them. So as the instructor, having them see that you liked their post or that you retweeted or shared their post is very important to the student and really gives them a little bit of a sense of pride in what they have done. Include posting your own picture. Show them that you're willing to be in a picture or that you're willing to post results. Even times that we have made a mistake or done something wrong, we have posted that so that students can see that mistakes happen and that it's not always going to be perfect. Follow students and tag students in posts that you may have. We created specific accounts that are lab specific. You can see in these posts here, it says BC 1005 lab. So that is specific to our post. If you have a personal Twitter account, don't use that. Create your own kind of, I have a Professor B account and we have the lab account. And so I like my students to see that I may follow them as a professor, but I don't include any personal information in that. Promote your course. Using social media is a great way to promote your class. When students start following other students and they say, hey, what's that 1005 stuff you keep posting? It is a way to promote your own course and perhaps maybe help engage and get more enrollment in your own courses. You're reaching students in a really new way, a way that they're not used to interacting with their professors and maybe even sometimes other students. So it's very novel for students and a really great way to reach them on a different level. Be as creative as you want to be. This is kind of my favorite part of it. I can be super creative with these posts. One of the things that we have done, aside from the hurricane, when COVID, when the pandemic came around, this post here in the center, we posted this. This was an Instagram post that we sent out to our students. Hey, be safe. Take care of yourself. Here are some things that you need to know, how to take care of yourself and stay healthy during this pandemic. On the left is a post we sent out at the beginning of the term during the week that we were exploring lab safety. So I sent a post out with a picture of a dog in safety gear. Who doesn't think that's cute? It's very eye-catching, and the students see the relevance of it. On the right, we were studying in the last unit, we talked about evolution. So we posted something about the evolution of dogs having puppy eyes and how they, how they kind of can get that extra treat all the time with those puppy eyes. So we try to incorporate science into some everyday stuff that students are really interested in and that is eye-catching and something for them to read. We're not there to convert them into science majors. We're there to let them explore the world of science and see it as a part of their everyday life and how important it is. And then the very last piece of advice I can give to you is to have absolute total fun with this. Social media is supposed to be fun. So engage your students in it. Let them use their phone in class and take a picture of something they've done and post it. Let them take some pride in the work that they are completing and the content that they are learning. And you'll find that they will just be that much more engaged in what they're doing in class. So that is all I have for presentation. I am more than willing to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you, Lisa. This was so creative, and what a great way to go to students where they are and bring them into this learning.
Yeah, we love it.
There's lots of really resounding support and enthusiasm around your idea. We do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
One is, can you give some examples of the prompts you use? And then there's a follow-up question, but I'll stop right there.
The prompts I use, actually, if we scroll back a few slides, you'll see that most of the students did actually post. Here we have in this one, oh, it's a little hard to read. I can't quite see it, but let's see. There's a couple of hashtags in there: Gen Biolab, active learners. We've done, when we talk about cat genetics, we have them count cats with different coat colors and they calculate allele frequencies, that sort of thing. One of them is like I said before, my cat's a genius. We do an enzyme lab where you learn why you can't put pineapple in Jell-O without cooking it first. So we call it Jell-O hates pineapple. We tried to make the hashtags that are in the lab manual that the students are required to use. We tried to make them kind of fun and interesting. A little diverse, but related to the content itself. I'm looking at a couple of them. Splitting up is hard to do. We use that in meiosis. It's just, you know, kind of fun and different. I'm looking in the manual now, trying to think of some offhand. Cool microbes, wash your hands, moldy bread, green bacteria. These are just hashtags. We wanted to use these search criteria so that we were able as faculty to go in, if you wanted to give the students credit, we could do a search on that hashtag, and then all of those student posts pop up and we can see the students that do it. For my class at the beginning, by the second week, I have a sign-up sheet and they have to tell me what their username is so I can make sure that I give them credit. So there's some preparation that does go into it. I also tell students if they don't want to use their personal account, they're free to create a biology only account. They're totally free to do that. That's fine. What percent of students am I engaging? I can only speak directly, Michelle, to my own class. And in my own class, I would say greater than, if I have a class of 24, I probably have 22 to 23 of them posting. Now, probably half of those are because I'm giving extra credit. But out of those, I would say probably 5 or 6. On average, about 5 or 6 of them are posting more than once a week, or they're creating more than one post, which means that they're doing more than what I'm asking them to do. I'm only asking for one, and I only give them credit for one. They don't get any more points for extra posts. So they start posting more on their own.
So I have there's another question. Let's see, how did you decide just how much guidance you needed to include in the guides on how to use the social media?
The first semester, we didn't really have any. We kind of assumed that all of the students knew how to use social media, which was a really bad assumption. And we found that most of them really already did, but there were a few that didn't. So initially we provided that guidance in class. I devoted some class time to helping students set up an account, or I told them, come to my office hours and I will help you set up an account in, Twitter or something like that for you to use. After that, we didn't really count the number of students that know how to use this media and didn't. We just created, we just went through how to create an account on the first day for anyone who didn't. Because one of the reasons we don't really count who knows how to use it and who doesn't is because I don't want to have people raise their hand on the first day of class in front of everyone and say, I don't know how to use Twitter. A student may be embarrassed to do that, especially in this day and age with how popular social media is. So we wanted students to just, here it is. If you need it, it's there for you to use. If you don't need it, then you don't need to use it. You don't need to see me.
Thank you. Do we have time for one more question?
Yes, we have time for just one more question and then we'll move on.
Okay, so there is a question about the multiple class sections. Do you have multiple class sections posting? How do you identify students from each class section on social media?
Each professor that uses it has their own, they have their own account. And so they require their students, like mine's Professor B Science, so they have to tag me in the post. And that's in my syllabus and in the directions at the beginning of class. So each instructor, in order to get the credit, you have to tag the instructor. Yeah, not every instructor, and we teach a lot of 1005 labs, so not every single instructor teaching it is using it. It is an option for the instructors that want to use it. So those that do, we just tell them you're going to want to create a professor account in each of these, or if the professor says, I only want to use Twitter. Okay, well then your students have to only use Twitter, but you should create an account for them to tag you. And then I get notifications from Twitter. And I've had students tell me, I posted, I didn't get credit. And I'm like, okay, send me a screenshot with the date and time on it of your post, and I'll give you the credit. And so I've done it that way too.